The Packers look to continue their winning ways tomorrow versus the Carolina Panthers. Rob and I will tell you why you should expect a convincing Packers win.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Good. My name is Jordan Olson and my co-host and best friend over here is Rob Ralph. We want to thank any new and returning listeners. As always, we're excited to be talking Packers football with you all. Right now, we have new episodes every Wednesday, Saturday, and on Mondays on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. We've unlocked the super chats, super stickers, and super thanks on our channel, and that's just another way to interact with us and show us your support. We always definitely really truthfully appreciate that. So before we jump in and talk about the Carolina Panthers game coming up tomorrow, let's talk about trade deadline for a minute here. You know, we haven't touched this topic in a little while, but we're getting close. I think the 4th is the trade deadline officially. So, Rob, will the Packers buy, sell, or stay put at the deadline?
I have a hard time believing that they're going to do anything after the splash that they made for Micah Parsons. But if they do, you know, we've talked about it from before. I think they should be looking at cornerbacks first and foremost. You know, I think some of our conversation last week about Valentine versus Hobbs, in my opinion, I think we got that pretty much answered. I thought Valentine came in there and he played pretty damn well. I believe Hobbs only had 3-4 snaps, essentially got benched. I know that they're saying that that's a competition, but I think Valentine looks like the much better coverage cornerback anyways on this team outside of Keyshawn Nixon. So yeah, I think they should be looking at quarterback. We touched on it a little bit from another video, but Taylor Britt out of the Bengals, I've heard that they started to make phone calls on. Alontae Taylor, the young kid out of the Saints. Both you and I talked about a possible Wicks, you know, down there comp for us getting Alontae Taylor. I don't know if there would be some draft capital, what that would be, but we both thought that would be a pretty fair deal, and both teams getting some need there for both of the teams, you know, top critical things that they need, you know, moving forward. So I really love Alontae Taylor. He's playing really good, at least in PFF grades, and from what I watched on him too. I would not be mad at a Taylor Britt for the Bengals, and or maybe like a Rico Woolen from the Seattle Seahawks, because it looks like Rico Woolen has really kind of played himself out of that. He was a former Pro Bowler. He's looked like he's playing out of that Mike McDaniel scheme. So I think one of those three with the Saints, the Wicks for Taylor swap makes the most sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I look at this team and where could we improve? I mean, defensive tackle was talked about for a little while. I think it really depends on where they feel like they are health-wise with Devontae Wyatt, LVN. How close are they back to having LVN? Of course, he's out this week again. I don't think there's a big need to rush him back, but are they looking at that, and is that a longer-term thing? And would they like to add some depth there? I think that would be the other position, but it couldn't hurt to add a corner. But I think if they're going to add a corner, it has to be somebody that has a profile that's going to improve things substantially for this defense. You know, I've had some discussions with people. It's like, well, just get a depth piece, right? Because if we have an injury, we've really got nothing. And it's like, you know, I'm fine with the guys, but like, why add another CB4 to this roster? I think you're really trying to improve the talent level. Rico Woolen does intrigue me, because even though he's fallen off, he's played at a really high level, and he's definitely the type of corner that Brian Gutekunst really likes to target, somebody that's tall, physical, can play press man. And if the Seahawks really have given up on him, I wonder what the price would be. They don't necessarily, they're not clamoring for wide receiver there. I'm not sure that I want to like give up one, even though we did talk about Wicks. I still think, unfortunately, the business side of things means that Dobbs will no longer be a Packer next year at this point in time. I just don't know how they can re-sign Quay Walker, straighten out things on the offensive line with some of those gaps, and have the surplus they have at wide receiver and see that. It's going to feel very similar to Casey Hayward and Micah Hyde where he goes on to play like 4 to 6 years on another team that has the right role for him, he's going to have a really good career post Packers, and people are going to look at that and be like, Dobbs is the one that got away. But right now, the construction in the wide receiver room has Wicks on the roster next year. It has, Malik Heath back. So you're still looking at Christian Watson, Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, of course, Williams, Malik Heath. That's a really nice room of 6.
Yeah.
So Denzel Ward, I have heard that name too. The Browns certainly probably would be looking to, acquire a little draft capital at this point in time. I think that they wouldn't mind adding another wide receiver to that room as well because, Jerry Jeudy is okay. Cedric Tillman, I think, is kind of a project, but I think they'd probably mostly look at draft capitals. I think that they either sell or stay put, if I'm being honest. I think the fans are the ones that aren't happy with the Packers corner room right now more than it's the Packers brass and coaches that are really unhappy with that room because they've liked the construction for a long time. So I'd like them to prove me wrong on that.
Yeah, and if we
go
get 2 trades like that, the Mike Parsons and then in season something like that, that'd be just incredible. Really would. Very unpackers like, especially to do 2 Micah Parsons, obviously blockbuster, but to do another one like this in season like this for for a need, kind of unheard of.
Yeah, it'd be really nice for them to find the need piece that's under contract for this year and for next year, though.
Yeah.
There's probably not a lot of teams willing to part with that. I don't know. Here's my other last call on an interesting trade candidate, but
let's hear it.
What if they shelf McManus for another week here? He doesn't play this week, and Haversick goes out and kicks really well. Could there be a kicker needy team that would be willing to absorb McManus's contract, and the Packers just go a lot younger and cheaper at that position? I'm not saying that I want McManus out. I really don't think that the Packers had a lot of business trying to kick that 57-yarder with him last week. I wasn't on the recap. I was pro Matt LaFleur going for it because I think it showed me that Matt LaFleur was starting to turn up the aggressiveness. So I was okay with it. I wasn't mad at McManus for missing the 57-yarder coming off of that injury. Obviously, the 44-yarder, you got to make those.
Yeah. Crappy field conditions too, no doubt there. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that solves your kicker situation.
Yeah,
goes younger and cheaper.
If you get somebody to give you a 6th rounder and take that off your hands. I mean, there are some teams with some kicking needs right now. There always are.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't hate that at all.
Of course, you make that deal, and Haversick looks like the guy that's bounced around for a couple years in a couple weeks, and then you're
back
really,
in kicker jail. Yeah,
in kicker purgatory. Not a place that you want to be. McManus is at least a long-term proven commodity. Maybe even if his ceiling is, we'll just keep him to 55 yards and under.
Yep.
So let's talk Panthers. So we've got the 4-4 Panthers coming to town. They're a little bit different Panthers team in some regards than the past few years. They've got some pieces that they like. They're starting to put together some decent football, but they've also had a few stinkers as well. Packers are 13-point favorites. I think I've seen 13.5 on some websites as well. So the Packers come into this matchup winning the last 3 games. So I don't know. Overall, Rob, how are you feeling about this matchup? I hear some people talking about this as a trap game. Are you feeling like this is a trap game, or how are you feeling about this one?
I feel pretty good. I think the Packers as a double-digit favorite at home always scares me. I think they have the talent. They just play down. They play down to teams, quite a bit. So I don't know if I'm buying that trap game shit anymore, if I'm being honest. They just need to come out and execute better. Like I was talking about on the recap, whatever Matt LaFleur was doing in that 20 straight completion bucket, why don't you stew that up and make 100 different variations of that? Now, I get it. It's going to be scheme specific, the player, what the players are doing, alignment, all that sort of stuff. So totally get that that's just kind of more of a feeling and a repetition and a rhythm. But man, he was absolute. We were cooking. We were cooking in that second half. So I I don't think that the Packers should take this one for granted. I think that the Panthers really do love to not like button up 12 personnel wise. They like to try and run the football quite a bit and run it at you, whether it's Rico, Dowdell, or Chuba Hubbard. And both are really good running backs for them. They've had some injuries on their offensive line this year. Christensen, I think he's their starting guard. I think he's going to be out or he's on IR. I think they've had their starting center is injured, so they've had some injuries up front. Then obviously with Bryce Young, I'm not sure if it's going to be Bryce Young or if it's going to be Andy Dalton. Quite frankly, I think Andy Dalton scares me a little bit more than Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young, if he does play, is going to be limited. I don't think you're going to want to have him run out of the pocket. I think he's shown a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnover-worthy type of mistakes. So I think that you definitely don't want to take them for granted, because if they do get the run game going, I know the Packers' run defense has been pretty good. Then they build off play action. That's where Tariq and McMillan comes into play, some of their other good wide receivers, and that's where they can really, do a lot of damage, I want to say. But it's kind of my like high level thinking. This one I think is going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm not saying, you should take the Panthers money line or plus the points or anything. I just think that just seeing the Packers history of who they've played when it's come to opponents like this consistently, and especially this year, it's going to be a lot closer than people would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be a trap game either. I think that they'll take care of business. I think that hopefully they've learned their lesson. I think they do know that they have a big matchup coming up against the Eagles, but they have an extra day to prepare for that game. I just really think that it's not like a 2-6, Panthers team right now. I think that the Packers and Matt LaFleur will be taking this team very seriously.
Yeah.
Because they have beat a few teams this year. I think the trick is just to not go out and let Bryce Young have a career day, which, seems to be the theme for Packers defenses, to let like mid to lower tier quarterbacks go out and have their best day against this team. So, and I think a lot of that is scheme and players really come into play. So we've already addressed that. I was looking at the schedule ahead, actually, and for a while, the game I had circled as the next trap game coming up was our trip to New York against the Giants, because we never play well in MetLife, and I was really feeling like Cam Scattaboo and Jackson Dart vibes coming, and that one's coming off of the Eagles game, so I'm like, oh, you take care of business against the Panthers, you win a big one against the Eagles, there's the letdown, in New York. So
that makes sense.
We'll see. We'll see how the next couple weeks go. Quarterbacks in this game, right? I do think it's going to be Bryce Young. I think Andy Dalton's questionable. I think Bryce Young's going to be back. That's kind of what I'm hearing. So you've obviously got a really hot Jordan Love. He's got an 81.5 grade to Bryce Young's 67.3. Bryce Young did get benched early last season and then really found a little higher level play in the second half of last season. I still think that he's a lower third of this league starting quarterback, somewhere not in the top 20. I don't think that he can hurt you with his arm downfield. A lot of check downs, a lot of short intermediate passes if his wide receivers provide him that. But I think you did mention it already. The Panthers have two great running backs, and if they have a healthy line, which they don't, I think that's what they really want to lean into.
Yeah, that's how the Panthers offense operates. And you have to with a lower tier type of quarterback. You have to rely on that run game. And I was just watching some highlights of the Bills game too, and we haven't got into it, but both the running games, Packers and Panthers, are absolutely critical in this game, because look what James Cook just did to the Panthers and Carolina, 216 and 2 tutties now, and they sweep to the right, pitch to the left on the outside, boom, some zone cut blacks, and their linebackers are missing tackles all over the board. We'll get into the PFF and the players and those type of alignments, but both these run games are going to be critical for success for both of these teams in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, coming into this game, I think the Panthers had the 5th best rushing attack in the NFL, and I think the Packers are somewhere in the middle of the league right now. But strength meets strength. The Packers had the 3rd best rushing defense, so gives you hope that they'll neutralize that. So let's get into some of our key matchups. We're going to start with the Packers offensive side of the ball and Panthers defense. Rob, you've got this queued up courtesy of PFF, so if you are just on the audio side, you can check out the YouTube channel or on Spotify as well, and you can catch the visual to go along with this. We have the PFF Premium subscription, and that's been a great tool for us to help us analyze this. But so looking at this Packers offense versus this Carolina defense, what are some of the matchups or things that you're looking at this week where the Green Bay Packers can really take advantage, Rob?
Run the football. Run the football at literally anybody not named Derek Brown. I think it's like some sort of crazy stat, but when you run at Brown, like you just average a couple yards less. He's really, really good. Obviously, as you can see here, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And when I was watching the Bills Panthers, I mean, like I said, they ran it outside, they ran it this way, and I don't think it probably did, but I didn't see many clips where James Cook was running straight, gap running into Derek Brown. So depending on where he was lining up is where they were kind of dictating their runs, and they were having really good success doing that. And then based off of that too, they were able to get good play action. The other thing I noticed that they did pretty well too, and you kind of notice it there in their corners, but they did a lot of wide receiver screens. Generally, the Bills do a little bit more of the wide receiver screens, especially to Khalil Shakir. Yes, I do love that for fantasy football purposes. I've had a couple touchdowns that way, but I'm wondering specifically for like Golden. Like I know we've done that a little bit here too with Golden, but I'm just trying to find other unique ways we can try and get him involved. I don't think he's as good in this kind of slot position to do some of these jet sweeps like Jaden Reed was doing. So I'm just trying to think of other ways you could try to get Golden involved, and the Bills are having a ton of success. J.C. Horn is a very good cornerback. He's probably him and Brown are their 2 best defensive players in my opinion. They did draft Nick Scorton too from Texas A&M, but they don't really have a pass rush either. So, running the football at anybody not named Derek Brown, I think you're going to see a lot more quick passes. Let's see if we can get Golden involved more. Then based off that play action, then boom, here that opens up the man, the myth, the legend, who's absolutely been killing it up underneath in the intermediate targets, and Tucker Kraft, Romeo Dobbs, and even allows some shots for Watson to go down the field if you can get that run game going. So that's a couple of things I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think it's another week where their linebackers are not great and not great in coverage. So I expect another follow-up performance by Kraft. You could easily see another 100-yard game from him. But hey, click on Nick Scorton once. You and I were really high on him pre-draft. I'm very curious what his run defense grade. He's pretty average against the run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he's a pretty downhill player. At least I felt that way in some of the games. And, so I wonder if you can get outside him, and that's some of what you saw with that Bills, rushing attack. Especially if he's trying to execute like an inside move or a bull rush. He's kind of committed. But yeah, Nick Scorton, he's a nice piece on this team, and I expect him to develop. But you're right, they don't have much of a pass rush. And I think as our offensive line gets healthy, for me, I'm kind of going Jordan Love first, especially if Josh Jacobs is a little nicked up still. They're still working on that calf. Now Emmanuel Wilson can definitely looks like he can come in relief and really have some nice chunk runs. But let Jordan Love keep doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tweeted out and I know this is the frustration, but like Matt LaFleur knows he doesn't have to run on second down, right? Like, did somebody on his staff tell him, like, hey, Matt, we don't have to run on second down? It's like, oh, I mean, I just thought whether it was 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 8, we had to run the ball, right?
Yeah.
But but I think if they can keep Jordan Love upright, he's shown, I think he's at like an 86% completion percentage when he's not pressured. So if this line keeps Jordan clean, he's going to have a field day. You've got Christian Watson back. I'm actually calling for this to be the first game where Matthew Golden has a TD. I know I called for that like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't know. I just got that vibe going somewhere in my bones that this is the game that's going to get done. I don't know if it's going to be like a 45-yard bomb. But like last week, they had that play where if Jordan wasn't looking to the right, actually he would have been wide open on a slant over the middle. I wonder
Yeah.
if they don't look to try to execute that concept again and get him that bucket and get him that monkey off the back. So,
Yeah, and I mean, more to your Jordan Love. I mean, number one passer from a clean pocket in 2025. He's got an 80% completed percentage from a clean pocket. I mean, and that's doing that without Christian Watson for most of the season too, and without Jaden Reed for most of that. You're right. Carolina cannot rush. They cannot rush the passer at all. And if you can't pressure Love, you're basically going to be dead in the water. Plus, even if they do bring pressure, that puts them in man coverage. So I could totally see that too as well. And I think just being able to effectively run the football, maybe not second down, will only be able to help that situation and Jordan Love even more. But absolutely, man, Jordan Love has been cooking from a clean pocket, and I expect that to happen more in this game too.
Yeah, and I think that they can lean into that left side of the line too if you do want to try to run. I mean, they got a big hole over there on what would be the Panthers' right side of the line. Aaron Banks is getting healthier. He's improved each of his last 3 games.
He has, yep.
So I think that combination of Walker, Banks, and Jenkins, you maybe pull out to the left a little bit, try to take advantage of that side, and they can kind of make some things happen. So let's switch over to the Packers defense. I think you've got it right that the Packers are going to continue to play in a lot of nickel. But yeah, we've kind of talked about Bryce Young not being able to push the ball down the field. So what I really expect to happen defensively is I think a similar game plan to the Steelers, because after Tedero McMillan, they don't really have somebody that makes you squirm as a pass catcher. So I feel like they can put Valentine or whoever they want on McMillan and just kind of play single high with Xavier McKinney over the top of him. And I think that really gives you the freedom to bring Javon Bullard, play him down in the slot, and then bring Williams down as kind of that run defender against Dowdell.
Robber. He's going to be the robber. Yep.
I just feel like with them being a little bit more one-dimensional and really only having that one legitimate threat, I just feel like they're going to be able to play Williams close to the box a lot. So I don't know. That's something I'm thinking about in totality from this on the defensive side of the ball. What are you looking at in terms of matchups?
Yeah, I like that. I think that totally makes a lot of sense. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on the linebackers. Now, if Quay Walker is out, insert Isaiah McDuffie / Tyron Hopper. I'd like to see Tyron Hopper a little bit more, but I guess if they're going to be running the football first and foremost, you're probably going to end up seeing some more McDuffie. I just want to see more Tyron Hopper, right? So that's just selfishly just want to get him some experience. But that I think, it's going to put some more pressure on your linebackers to be able to jump those gaps, make those play solid and fundamental within those gaps too, if they want to cut back and use some of that zone running scheme too that Dowdell and Hubbard can do. So I do like that. I do love Williams being more at the line, kind of being more of that robber, leaving one high up there too. And I think that you're going to see him make a couple of tackles within this game too when they try and pitch the ball out to the left or to the right. So I do like that. And yes, I would like to see Valentine um, more than Hobbs and Bullard in here for the slot. I assume that that's going to be the case. I don't know. They said there was a competition between Valentine and Hobbs. To me, that competition is over. I think Hobbs can definitely come in and provide some depth if there is injuries. But just from like the way I felt, and I'm not saying the Steelers wide receivers or anything incredible, although DK Metcalf definitely cooked, definitely cooked on Keyshawn Nixon. I would like to see Valentine in here. I just think this team operates best with this sort of alignment right here in nickel. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, and I'm not totally out on Hobbs, and I don't think that the Packers are. I don't think all the fans should be, right? He's coming off of injury, and I think a little bit more time in the scheme with Jeff Hafley. You can see him re-enter the lineup at some point in time, whether that's in a couple weeks or next year, and maybe play a little bit more effectively, right? Like slot probably is his most natural position. I'm not taking Bullard out of that role at this point in time, but if you do have a Bullard injury, you probably see Hobbs play pretty well in that spot. So
The other thing,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just say the other thing I just wanted to, even with their injuries on the offensive line, I mean, look at this. Look at this across the board on their offensive line. What did you say they were? Fifth in the league in rushing success. I mean, that would be the big reason right here too. So I think another big emphasis is these guys are going to have to hold. They're going to have to win the line of scrimmage. These guys right here, they're going to have to tackle really well too. And that brings me back to my point of the linebackers being able to, if they do get through, being able to make tackles too as well. Because this offensive line, even with their backups, seem to be very competent.
Yeah. I think is it Taylor Moton? He's not going to play this week. I think he's questionable. I guess I'd be surprised if he plays. So
yeah,
that's going to bring in Josh Nijman as his backup. Which
really,
yeah,
I did not know that.
Which from what I've heard, things have been rough with Josh in Carolina so far. So there's that. And then you got to look at this Curhan. If he is their guy starting right guard for them, which their normal starter, I think Chandler Zavala. If he can't go again, this guy's only got like 13 snaps.
Yeah,
so
okay. So take that with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Even though he has a really, really good grade, I don't know who those snaps were against. It's certainly not a large enough sample size for me to really take a lot of stock in that right now.
No, because look at the larger data set from the last few years. That's probably
you're talking about 4 years of data that says he's a below average offensive lineman there. So
yeah, good point.
Not the green wall that it appears to be on PFF right now. But with that being said, if they do have 2/5 of their line that are moving in and out of there, their center, preferred center too, I think Cade Mays.
Yep.
Is another guy that's been in and out. So I expect Parsons, Gary, Devontae Wyatt to attack. I would love to see some more of those formations where, Parsons is maybe lined up over the middle, come right through the gut of this offensive line, right through the A gap, and put some internal pressure on Bryce Young.
Can we call that the Rodgers nightmare?
Yeah.
Scheme.
I mean, I would love to see Gary get a couple of those looks too. It's mostly been Parsons that they've been shading in there. Like, give Gary a little love, I think we got two really, really good pass rushers in those two. And the Parsons addition has really just taken a lot of weight off of Gary's shoulders. So,
yeah. Yep.
I don't know. We talked about the running backs. I think if they shut McMillan down, which is really their only true threat, he's having a nice year. I think he's got like 500 receiving yards and something, but they're not really throwing the ball to anybody else. Xavier Legette has like 190 yards, and he's their number 2 receiver. Shut down Tedero McMillan, make this team one-dimensional, and I think the Packers have the horses to really slow the Carolina Panthers down. So
Agreed.
let's get to our score predictions. What's the outcome going to be when it's all said and done on Sunday?
For Packers, it'll feel a lot larger than that. And the Packers will be up by a couple of scores, but the Panthers will get a late classic garbage time TD to make it feel a lot closer than it really was.
Yeah, I can totally appreciate and understand that storyline, right? Like you've got the 31-17 lead with like, you wrap the game up with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and yeah, you let the Panthers do their thing, right? So my initial feeling is the Packers will win this game 30-16.
So
The
Packers don't give up a Panthers late garbage touchdown, which would be
essentially
awesome.
have the same score, but it's funny because now I put this caveat in my mind, this play up, play down condition that the Packers seem to put us through. So I've figured out my formula for that, and we'll see in these games. We'll come back to this in the Giants game, but I'm going to take 6 points away from the Packers offense, and I'm going to give a field goal to the opposing team.
Yes,
so if I take 6 from the Packers,
yes,
okay, we goofed around, we didn't execute, we had a poor first half, and instead of having that extra scoring drive, that extra touchdown, or finishing a field goal, we threw that away, and we kind of horsed around on defense. So if that happens, don't be surprised to see a 24-19 victory for the Packers on Sunday.
Yes, that's all that. I was like if you know the Packers and know what they've done, you're like, yes, check. That's good.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's hope that they're the team now that, coming off of handling their business so well in Pittsburgh in the second half, that they can just say, yes, let's go out and score on 3 drives in the first half, score on 3 drives in the second half, and just put a team away, and have a nice, comfortable victory. If the defense does their job, the Panthers have no business scoring more than 17 points in this game.
Is this one of the more frustrating 5 1-1 teams you've watched through a season so far? And frustrating is subjective. So I mean, but you know what I mean. Like, they should beat the living piss out of the Panthers, but they're going to dink around for 2.5 quarters.
You really take the Browns game out of it, and the answer is no. Like, if they would have just beaten the Browns, I think we're looking at this team a little differently, because you're looking at it as you're 6-1 right now. And I mean, what do you really have to complain about at that point in time?
Right.
But let's just say that Matthew Golden would have scored that touchdown that he ran out of bounds, and it really would have put them away, and it would have been like a 17-3 victory for the Packers or whatever in that Browns game. If like 2 or 3 plays would have went different, even like while the offense didn't really like blow them away, but the defense had an outstanding performance, and like 17 points is not bad for your like stinker game of the year. Like, I think there would be just a totally different narrative. You could live with the shootout on Sunday Night Football, a 40-point tie with the Cowboys. I don't know. That's just my opinion right now. So yeah, they've worked through some things, but I think if you throw out the Browns game, that it's not bad. It's not as bad as we make it out to be.
Yeah. But then I come back to like the Cardinals and the Steelers game, and I'm like, man, grand one bad half, I guess, in the Steelers game. The Cardinals was like 3 quarters almost, right, of not good complimentary football. But yeah, I know that's kind of picking there pretty deep. I mean, we are 5 1-1. It's just, man, can you just put together one competent game from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Matt LaFleur changes his play calling on second down, we feel a lot different about the season overall.
Don't run at Matt LaFleur. Don't run it on second down. We see you.
Yeah. I mean, like, guys, don't give up on Matt LaFleur, too. Like, he's got to look within and try to figure a couple things out here, but he's still one of the better play designers in this league. I just hope that he's listening to the right people, kind of giving him some advice about just kind of not getting in his own way. Anyways, I think that's all we got for y'all.
Yeah, that's all that we have for you. We do have content every Wednesday, Saturday, and Mondays on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please make sure to give us a like, sub, and follow us on those platforms. Jordan and I are on socials as well. I'm at Sounds Good with 3 A's, and Jordan is at Olson Jordan. Make sure to tell a Packers friend or two, or anybody else you know that would like to nerd out with the Packers just as much as we do. But as always, we appreciate it. Let us know what you guys think of the upcoming game and the old school unis against the Panthers. And we hope that you have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Take care. Gopackgo.
Wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey.